Welcome to CreepyTalks, where hidden fears come alive through chilling horror tales. Dare to listen as every story pulls you deeper into the darkness. Story 1, The Basement Listing. It started like any other cheap booking. Daniel wasn't the kind of person who believed in bad vibes. He worked as a freelance videographer and had stayed in dozens of short-term rentals across different countries. Strange hosts, weird decor, broken locks. None of it ever bothered him. But this one felt wrong the moment he stepped inside. The listing had looked normal. A quiet suburban home just outside a small coastal town in Oregon. Clean photos, good reviews, cheap price. Too cheap, maybe. But Daniel wasn't complaining. The host had messaged him earlier. Front door will be unlocked. Your room is downstairs. Please don't disturb the upper floor. That last line stuck with him. Still, when he arrived late that night, exhausted from travel, he didn't think much of it. The house was dark, not lights off dark, but unnaturally dark. Like even the street lights outside refused to reach the windows. He stepped inside, calling out, "Hello?" No response. The air smelled faintly damp, like something had been sitting wet for too long. He found the staircase leading down to the basement. A single dim bulb flickered above it, buzzing softly. His room, according to the listing, was down there. Daniel hesitated, then laughed to himself. "Just a basement," he muttered. He went down. The room itself looked exactly like the photos. Small bed, plain walls, a desk, a lamp. Everything normal. Too normal. Like someone had tried very hard to make it look untouched. He dropped his bag and sat on the bed. It creaked loudly, echoing more than it should have, like the space beneath it was hollow. That's when he noticed the door. At first, he thought it was just a closet. It was in the far corner of the room, painted the same color as the wall. But there was something off about it. No handle, no visible hinges, just a flat surface with scratch marks. Long, thin scratches, like something had been dragged against it repeatedly. Daniel walked closer. The scratches weren't random. They were vertical, grouped, almost like fingers. He felt a chill crawl up his spine. "Okay, that's weird," he whispered. He turned away, trying to ignore it. Around midnight, he started hearing sounds. At first, it was just faint tapping. Tick, tick, tick. He assumed it was pipes. Old house, temperature changes, normal explanation. Then it changed. Scratch, scratch, scratch. Daniel froze. The sound was coming from inside the room, specifically from the wall, from that door. He sat up slowly on the bed, staring into the darkness. The lamp flickered. The scratching grew louder, more urgent, like something on the other side was trying to get out. "Hello?" he called out, his voice shaking despite himself. Silence. Then 3 slow knocks from behind the door. Daniel's stomach dropped. He grabbed his phone, turning on the flashlight. The beam shook as he pointed it toward the door. Nothing moved, but the scratches looked deeper now, fresher. He took a step forward. Another knock, this time louder, more aggressive. Bang! Daniel jumped back. "Okay, not funny," he shouted, assuming maybe the host was messing with him somehow. No answer. Then a voice, soft, barely audible. "Help me!" Daniel's blood ran cold. The voice didn't sound like it was coming through a wall. It sounded like it was right next to his ear. He spun around. No one there. The room was empty. The scratching started again. Faster now. Desperate. Clawing. The door began to tremble slightly. Daniel backed toward the stairs. "I'm leaving," he said out loud, more to convince himself than anything else. But as he reached the door to exit the basement, it slammed shut. Hard. The light above flickered violently, then went out. Darkness swallowed everything. Daniel fumbled with his phone, the flashlight barely holding steady. "Hello?" he yelled. No response from upstairs. No footsteps. Nothing. Just that scratching. Closer now. Louder, right behind him. He turned slowly. The hidden door was no longer still. It was moving, pulsing, like something was pushing against it from the other side. The surface bulged outward, then snapped back. Again and again. With each movement, the scratching turned into pounding. Something wanted out, badly. Then suddenly, silence. Complete. Absolute. Daniel didn't move, didn't breathe, didn't even blink. And in that silence, he heard it, a whisper, right behind him, not from the wall, not from the door, from inside the room. "Why did you come down here?" Daniel slowly turned his head. The flashlight beam trembled across the room and stopped. At the corner, near the ceiling, something was there, clinging, watching, too thin, too long. Its limbs bent at angles that didn't make sense. Its face was pressed flat against the wall, smiling, wide, too wide. Its eyes locked onto his, unblinking, hungry, and then it dropped. Part 2. It was never the basement. Daniel didn't even realize he was screaming. The moment that thing dropped from the wall, his body reacted before his mind could catch up. He stumbled backward, slamming into the locked basement door, his hands fumbling wildly for the handle. It wouldn't move. Behind him, a wet, unnatural sound, like bones cracking, rearranging. He turned, slowly. The thing was no longer on the floor. It was closer, much closer, crawling toward him, not like an animal, not like a human. Its limbs twisted in impossible ways, elbows bending backward, knees snapping in directions they shouldn't. Its head remained tilted at that same disturbing angle, its face still stretched into that horrifying, unnatural smile, and its eyes never blinked. "Please," Daniel whispered, his voice breaking. "What do you want?" The thing stopped, just a few feet away from him. Its head twitched. Once, twice. Then in a voice that sounded like multiple people speaking at once. "We were quiet before you came." Daniel's heart pounded so hard he thought it might burst. "We?" he repeated. The creature's smile widened, slowly, painfully, as if its face was tearing open. And then, from behind him, a knock. Daniel froze. 3 slow knocks. On the basement door. His head snapped toward it. "Someone's there!" he gasped. Hope surged through him like electricity. He pounded on the door. "Hey! Help me! Please!" The knocking stopped. For a second, there was silence. Then, a voice from the other side. Calm, familiar. "It's okay, Daniel. Just stay where you are." It was the host. Relief flooded him. "Open the door!" Daniel shouted. But the voice didn't respond immediately. Instead, it said something that made his stomach drop. "You weren't supposed to see it this early." Daniel slowly turned back toward the creature. It hadn't moved. It was still crouched there watching him, waiting. "What is that?" Daniel whispered. The voice on the other side sighed. "They don't like being called that." Daniel's breath caught in his throat. "They?" he repeated again, his voice barely audible. The lights flickered back on, just for a second, and in that brief flash, Daniel saw something that made his entire body go numb. The walls. They weren't plain. They weren't empty. They were covered with marks. Hundreds of them. Scratches, handprints, and words carved deep into the surface. "Let us out. It hurts. Don't sleep. It's in the room." And over again, "We are still here." The lights went out again. Darkness, complete. Daniel's phone light flickered weakly. Behind him, the creature shifted. And then another sound. From the corner, then another. From the ceiling, then another. From under the bed. Daniel's blood ran cold. He turned the flashlight slowly and realized the first one wasn't alone. There were more, at least 3, maybe 4, all clinging to different parts of the room, watching him, smiling, their bodies thin and stretched, skin pulled tight over sharp bones, their eyes sunken but wide open. Every single one of them, grinning, the same impossible grin. "We stayed quiet," one of them whispered. "We behaved," another said, its voice overlapping. "We waited," a third added. Daniel pressed himself against the door, shaking uncontrollably. "What do you want from me?" he screamed. All of them spoke at once. "We want to go upstairs." The basement door handle suddenly rattled. From the outside, the host again. "You shouldn't listen to them," the voice said calmly. "They lie." Daniel's mind raced. "Then what are they?" he yelled. A pause, then, "They're what's left." Something cold brushed against Daniel's ankle. He looked down. One of the creatures was right there, right at his feet, its face inches from his leg. It slowly looked up at him, still smiling. "Open the door," it whispered. "Let us out." Daniel kicked it away, stumbling sideways. "No, stay away from me." The creatures didn't attack. They didn't rush him. They just watched, waiting, patient, like they knew something he didn't. "Daniel," the host's voice came again, more serious now. "You need to make a choice." "What choice?" Daniel shouted. Silence for a moment. Then, "You can stay in that room until morning." Daniel glanced around, at the walls, at the creatures, at the hidden door, at the scratches. The whispers had started again, soft, constant, crawling into his ears. "You won't survive that," the voice continued calmly. Daniel's throat went dry. "Or," the host said. The door handle turned slightly, just enough to make a clicking sound. "You can open the door." Daniel stared at it, his hand trembling as he reached toward the handle. Behind him, the creatures began whispering faster, louder, desperate. "No, don't. Please don't." Their tone had changed, no longer inviting, now terrified. Daniel froze, his hand inches from the handle. "Why?" he whispered. One of the creatures crawled closer, closer than before. Its smile was gone now. For the first time, it looked afraid. "If you open it," it said slowly, "you let him in." The knocking stopped. The voice outside the door changed, deeper, heavier, no longer calm. "Daniel," it said, "open the door." The handle turned on its own, just slightly. The door creaked, opening an inch, and from the gap, something breathed. Part 3, the thing upstairs. The door opened, just an inch. But that was enough. Cold air poured through the gap, thick and rotten, like something had been decaying for years just beyond the threshold. Daniel stumbled back, covering his nose, his eyes watering instantly. And then, that breathing, slow, heavy, wet, not human, not even close. The creatures behind him began to panic. For the first time since he had seen them, their movements were no longer controlled or patient. They scrambled across the walls, retreating toward the far corners of the room, their long limbs trembling, their whispers turning into frantic, overlapping cries. "Close it! Please close it! Don't let him in!" Daniel's heart raced. His instincts screamed at him to slam the door shut, but his body wouldn't move, because something on the other side was pulling it open, slowly, deliberately. The gap widened, 2 inches, 3, 4, and then a hand appeared, if it could even be called that, long, Gray. Far too thin. Its fingers stretched unnaturally, joints bending like soft wire, scraping against the wood as it gripped the edge of the door. Daniel let out a broken gasp and stumbled backward. No, 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 no. The creatures behind him began shrieking now, high-pitched, agonized, as if the mere sight of that hand was causing them pain. It found you. It always finds. We tried to hide you. The door burst open, violently, slamming against the wall with a deafening crack. Daniel fell to the floor, scrambling away as the thing from the other side stepped into the basement. It had to crouch to fit through the doorway. Too tall, far too tall. Its head nearly brushed the ceiling even while bent. Its body was wrong in every possible way. Stretched, thin, its skin hanging loosely like it didn't quite fit what was underneath. Its arms dragged along the ground, fingers twitching, leaving faint scratch marks wherever they touched. But its face, that was the worst part. It didn't have one, not properly, just a smooth, pale surface that slowly began to split open, a vertical crack forming down the center, widening until it resembled something like a mouth. And from that opening came a voice, the same voice Daniel had heard earlier, the host. I told you not to go downstairs. Daniel shook his head, backing into the corner. You're not human. The thing tilted its head, its face stretching wider. No, it said simply, I'm what owns the house. The creatures on the walls whimpered. They pressed themselves flat, trying to disappear, their bodies trembling uncontrollably. Please, one of them whispered. Not again. Daniel's mind struggled to process anything. Who are they? He asked, his voice barely functioning. The thing took a slow step forward. The floor creaked under its weight. They, it said almost casually, are the guests who opened the wrong door. Daniel's chest tightened. No, that's not possible. The creature closest to him began crying. Actual tears streamed down its distorted face. We didn't listen. We thought we could leave. It let us go upstairs. Daniel's eyes widened in horror. They were like me, he whispered. The tall figure nodded slowly. Yes. The realization hit him like a punch to the gut. The basement wasn't the trap. The basement was the cage, keeping something out. Daniel scrambled to his feet. I won't stay here, he said, his voice shaking but desperate. I'm leaving. The thing didn't move, didn't try to stop him. Instead, it stepped aside, clearing the path to the open door. Of course, it said. You're free to go. The creature screamed. No! Don't go upstairs! It's a lie! One of them lunged forward, grabbing Daniel's arm with a grip like ice. Please, stay! Please! Its face was inches from his, and for a moment, Daniel saw something human in its eyes. Fear. Real fear. He hesitated, just for a second, and that was enough. The tall thing moved, faster than anything the size should be able to. Its arm shot forward, grabbing the creature that held Daniel. There was a sickening crack. The creature's body twisted violently as it was yanked away. Its scream cut off instantly, then silence. Daniel froze, paralyzed. The tall thing slowly turned back toward him, its face still split open, watching, waiting. Go, it said softly. Something inside Daniel broke. He ran, up the stairs, past the doorway, into the dark hallway above. The house looked different, longer, wider. The walls stretched unnaturally, the ceiling too high, the air thick and suffocating, and the silence was absolute. No outside noise, no wind, no distant cars, nothing. Behind him, the basement door slammed shut, locked. Daniel turned, breathing heavily. Hello? He called out. No answer. He took a step forward, then another. The hallway seemed to extend further with each movement. The front door was nowhere in sight. Then, a voice right behind him. "You shouldn't have come up here." Daniel slowly turned and felt his sanity snap completely, because standing there in the hallway was himself. Same face, same clothes, same terrified expression, but the smile was wrong, too wide, too familiar. The other Daniel tilted his head. "You opened the door," it said, its voice layered. Not one, not two, but many. "You belong to the house now." The lights went out. The next morning, a new listing appeared online. Cozy home, quiet neighborhood, friendly host, 5-star reviews, affordable price, and one small note: "Guest room available downstairs. Please do not disturb the upper floor." And somewhere deep below, in the darkness, a new voice joined the others, scratching, begging, waiting.